guys? Welcome to another episode of Bro History. It's Henry Zamota and Danny Abdel-Jabbar. Right now, we're freestyling. We don't even know what we're going to be talking about today.
Off
We're
the
going to be
dome.
off the dome, pulling stories from random, and just seeing where this one goes. We're improvising. We're bullshitting. We're pontificating.
Oh, the pontification is going to be strong today. Trust me.
What's another word for pontificate, so we can keep the adjectives going right now? Wait, adjectives, all the verbs going right now.
I don't know. Postulating.
Project. Well, no, not projecting. I guess we
Depends.
sort of.
It depends. Yeah.
We project stuff
A little bit.
We do stuff. I don't know the difference between a verb and an adjective, as you just learned.
Yeah, he was really bad at like Mad Libs when he was a kid.
I
He was that kid that I always had to ask, "What's an adjective?"
I still need to double check how I spell like basic there, and twos and.
That's what Grammarly is for, dude.
Well, no, the problem is that I became too dependent on Grammarly over the years.
And then
So-
he just totally forgot.
So I was writing something the other day on paper, and it's very rare that I write anything on paper anymore, mainly because I don't need to. And also because when I write something down on paper, I instantly lose it. So over the past, I can't remember the last time I really primarily wrote on paper. It must have been in high school. It had to be over 10 years ago since I last wrote on paper. So I was writing something and I was looking at my handwriting. I forgot how to write. Like I literally almost feel like I forgot how to write things down. Like
Do you write in cursive or print?
I'm writing. I have a pen in my hand and I'm like carving out like circles and wheels and sun gods in a cave. Like that's how archaic it was. It was ridiculous. And I look at it. I look at my handwriting. It looks like a serial killer. It looks like either a serial killer or it looks like a 4-year-old. At this point, a 4-year-old has more
Dexterity.
legible handwriting than I do, and probably better grammar as well. So that's who you're listening to right now.
Well, here's one thing that like a 4-year-old won't have.
Not an academic.
Did you learn cursive as a kid when you were a kid?
I went to Catholic school. That's what makes it more of a shame.
Yeah. Well, I know that my younger sisters don't know how to write in cursive. They stopped teaching that, by the way. So
they don't teach that. Well, I went to Catholic school
Yeah.
that emphasized that a lot. So I have no excuse to have terrible handwriting, but I do. It's
did the nuns slap you with a ruler every time you fucked up your L's?
I didn't go to that. I didn't go to that type of Catholic school. The brothers paddled me and took me into their quarters and made me play.
Hide the salami.
Hide the salami was a big one.
Yeah.
Pin the tail on the
priest.
On the priest was a big one. Let's keep these going.
Don't wake daddy.
Don't make daddy. Hey, you want a sip of the wine? You want some of the blood of Jesus?
Blood of Christ, bitch.
Yeah. I never experienced that. I went to Catholic school. Looking back at it, I've never experienced anything like that was bad. No, I never had a situation where I was diddled. However, there are some priests that, in hindsight, like looking at behavior of people who've done those types of things.
Are you about to reveal like a dark moment in your past?
Well, when I was in middle school, one of my teachers, it wasn't a priest, it was just a teacher there, was arrested for soliciting a young girl online and trying to bring her back, and he was like 55 or 50 something.
That's
He
gross.
tried to bring her back to our school lab so you could film it, and have sex with her and film it. And it ended up being, it was a 14-year-old girl that he was speaking to online, and it ended up being an FBI agent
Oh
who he was
shit.
speaking to. So he was honey trapped.
So he honeypotted.
Yeah. So
The,
he met with
was Chris Hansen there?
if he had a show, that was exactly the scenario. It was a Chris Hansen type thing. So he goes to the school lab and he's waiting for this girl, and the FBI shows up and he's arrested. They find a tripod. They find a bunch of beer and alcohol.
Pack of condoms, some lubricant, like
I probably like he brought everything that you would need in that type of situation. And he was always a very weird teacher. He was always a weird guy. It was the type of teacher that you would intentionally act up in. You know how you always have those teachers that you kind of sense they're kind of weak or they're kind of goofy. So you go to their class and everyone acts like a pack of animals. He was that guy. Well,
he was that guy.
Sight of a 12-year-old, 12-year-old Henry. I guess I was onto something because he was very, very weird. He was very weird. I never put that together that he was like a child molester, but I mean he was, or at least tried to.
Allegedly.
Perfect timing for the siren.
Yeah.
Yeah, alleged. Well, he wasn't allegedly. Like, he tried to do it. They caught him. Like they caught him in the act of trying to
Okay, I think that siren means we should move on.
solicit sex from a minor. But there's something grosser about the story. I can't leave this part out of it. So when this is actually just kind of like rumors, so I can't confirm this, but I was told this by multiple sources, meaning my other shithead friends when I was younger, which are really, really good sources, right?
Yeah.
They were telling me the rumor was that they found all these videos of school field trips where he was like zooming in on girls.
Ew.
Yeah, it was just like really gross shit. So yeah, I had that teacher. Most people I know, and it's kind of funny, like a lot of my friends or a lot of people I've met, they've all had situations where they've all gone to school and have had a teacher that's got arrested for that, who's got arrested for either soliciting sex from a minor or having sex with a minor. And I don't mean minor as in like what you're thinking right now, like minor, like a gold miner or a coal miner.
I think people know what you mean by minor when
I mean minor less
in the context of a teacher.
I don't mean I didn't mean minor.
He's a prospector.
I meant gold rush.
So is that why all the good mining jobs are leaving West Virginia? Because all the customers are going to jail.
Apparently, well, they're not going to jail. Oh yeah, what am I saying? Yes, that's true. Yeah. So there's that. All right. What were we going to talk about today? So we have so many.
We got a bunch of things.
Random ass news stories that we want to talk about. Maybe throw in some history in there a bit. I guess the first thing I thought was interesting was that I saw kind of for all the Muslim listeners, happy Ramadan. Do you say happy Ramadan?
I don't know. I'm not a Muslim.
I think so. Most people think you're Muslim.
Yeah.
Who listen in.
Not a Muslim. I promise.
He's half Puerto Rican, half Arab. Today or yesterday? No, yeah. Today was the last day of Ramadan, right?
Mm-hmm.
And something I found
awesome.
I live next to the Islamic Center of New York, or I live a block away from it. So it was very, very crowded today. What's that?
Yeah, I pass it every time I come by your place.
Yeah, it was very crowded today. And like the Islamic Center of New York, it's not like just a mosque. It's almost like a compound. It's huge. It's gated and all this. It's quite nice. Like it's a beautiful building. Especially like there's certain vantage points that you can look at it. In the city, and it's a nice build. Like it's a really, really beautiful building. But it was packed. Like there must have been a couple thousand people there, like this, because they have a huge yard and thing like that. So it was cool. And I got to thinking, So Ramadan is on a different time of the year. It's a different time of the year every year. Every Muslim holiday is, and I never really thought about the differences between a lunar calendar and the English calendar.
Yep.
So I thought that would just be kind of a fun experiment or fun thing to go through. The differences between a lunar calendar, because that's the Islamic calendar is just a lunar calendar. And forgive
Right.
me if I'm wrong. Like, I apologize if I say anything wrong to our Muslim listeners, but that's what it is, right?
Yeah, I think you're right, and it's lunar calendar for those who aren't aware is they run on the cycles of the moon, so 28-day cycles. Since that doesn't line up very well with our Gregorian calendar, that's how you get the shifts in in when Ramadan starts and ends every year, among other holidays.
All right, and next topic.
that's about it.
That's about it.
Well, today in history, 30 years ago, we had the massacre at Tiananmen Square in Hong Kong. That's a pretty big piece of news. We're recording this on Wednesday, June 4th, and 30 years ago, some crazy shit happened. And I think that's we should definitely talk a little bit about that for sure. What do you know about the massacre at Tiananmen Square, Henry?
I don't really know too much, to be completely honest. So I'm gonna have to rely on I'm gonna have to rely on you,
right.
or just my bullshitting ability, which is not really that great. So what I know about Tiananmen Square is that there were a bunch of student protests.
That's right.
And it was like 1979, right? No, or 1981.
It was 89.
89. This is
30 years ago.
30-year anniversary.
What are you talking about, bro? No, all right. All right. So I think that the starting point that everyone, at least in the Western world, should know about is the iconic picture of Tank Man, right? Is like this Chinese dude standing in front of a tank, and behind that tank is like a whole row of tanks, right? And it was crazy because this happened right after they had just been massacring a bunch of, an unknown amount of Chinese protesters. And he just stood in front of a tank, and for whatever reason, the operator of the tank decided not to mow his ass down. And it's an iconic video and photograph. And fun fact, not a whole lot of Chinese people have seen it or know about it. At least the ones that like live and stay in China. That's because obviously this is a dark part of Chinese history, and they'd prefer not to not to talk about it and not to do anything. I was just watching a video earlier today that said that China often filters their internet, right? They censor a whole lot of stuff, and some things that they'll censor or filter out would be like search terms, right? And some of the search terms get really ridiculous. Like today, you can't get search results for today, or like literally the word today. Because if you search today, the likelihood that you come up with the 89 Tiananmen Square protests is probably pretty high. But there's a bunch of other ones, like end of when spring turns to summer. You can't search for that today in China. I don't know why, but evidently that might move you towards it. Super weird. Anyway, the basic background, the TLDR on what happened in Tiananmen Square was that China under Mao Zedong, they're one of their old chairmen, he died in 1976, and he basically spearheaded what was called the Cultural Revolution, which is also a pretty dark, in my opinion, time in Chinese history where, they were really cracking down on false thought. It was very like, 1984, right? If you weren't culturally aligned with the views of the party and of the country, then they'd kill you, or they would make your life a living hell. Anyway, so he died, and then there was this big transformation, and a lot of the young people in China were hoping that they would be moving towards a more democratic republic. And there was this one dude. And his name was, hold on, let me pull this up because this is important.
His name was Robert Paulson.
His name was Robert Paulson. He had a name in death. His name was Hu Yaobang. And he was
Hu Yaobang?
Hu Yaobang.
Hu Yaobangin.
So he was a pretty like progressive leader, and he was basically forced to resign at a certain juncture, and that was to the chagrin of a lot of young people, especially folks in colleges and shit like that. And he just kind of suddenly died on in April of 1989, and that was crazy. It was like a big blow to the democratic movement in China at the time, and the June 4th was originally started off as like a memorial for Hu Yaobang, and funny enough, shit, who was the leader of Russia at the time of the Soviet Union? It was 89. Give me
Was it
Leningrad.
Gorbachev?
Gorbachev. Thank you. So Gorbachev was also set to be in the same place at the same time in like I forget the exact the Great Hall of the People, they call it. It's near Tiananmen Square.
No, Gorbachev wasn't actually president yet. He didn't get in office until 85.
Right, but Gorbachev was set to be there, right? So he
Yeah,
was.
he had a huge position in the
Did you say
Communist
in
Party.
85? You said 85.
Yeah, 85.
Well, then we're talking about 89. So he was president
Oh,
already.
he was. Yeah. Sorry.
Okay, so
I thought you were
Gorbachev.
talking. I thought you were talking pre.
No. We're talking about 89, Tiananmen Square. Like on June 4th, they were supposed to be having a memorial for Hu Yaobang. And basically what happened was he was also supposed to visit China. And this was like pretty big news because it was like one of the first times that Russia was going to be meeting with a delegation in China, post the Cultural Revolution. And, that was supposed to be a big deal. But, a lot of these young kids started getting these ideas that like Hu Yaobang's death wasn't necessarily an accident, and that he was forcibly resigned and that the country wasn't going the way that they wanted it to. So this memorial turned into a protest very quickly, and Gorbachev couldn't enter the Great Hall of the People. He had to actually come in through the back door. Like they had to actually let him in through the back door, which was embarrassing for China. And they didn't like that very much. Literally, they couldn't get him in through the front door for the photo op because there was like a million people. It was nuts, protesting. And then, of course, they send in the army, and this is where it gets dicey. The army gets the order to start opening fire on the crowd, and they killed a lot of people. And there's never been an official report from China to say how many people died. Estimates range from like 100 to several thousand, right? We literally have no idea. But any amount of people, any amount of citizens, right? This is like what's the it's like kinslaying, like it's like when you kill your own people, regicide, is it? I forget the actual word for it. But like it's fucked up. You don't open fire on your own people. I mean, it's a lot of the reasons why people who are against Bashar al-Assad are catching him flack for that shit. Whether or not he did it is up for debate, of course. And like a lot of we've deposed leaders for less, and this has been kind of like crazy thing, and China now refers to this day as just the June 4th incident instead of the Tiananmen Square massacre, which is what the rest of the world refers to it as.
Incident massacre.
Yeah. Well, that happened today, 30 years ago.
That did happen today, 30 years ago. I've always been I'm no expert on China at all. We talk about it sometimes, but usually just in a
China
in the China setting. However, it is interesting. I find it interesting that the numbers of dead is just completely all over the place.
Yeah.
So when I was looking at, I've looked at like how many people died there, and it's like one source will be like, 100 people died. Another source will be like 5,000 people died.
Yeah.
Another source I saw said 7,000 people died. Yeah. I was like, that is a lot of people. That's a big range.
Right. And it was fucking brutal though, because they were killing them not only with just like shooting them with guns, like they sent in tanks and they were like crushing people with tanks.
Yeah, I was reading Justin Raimondo. He wrote an article during the 20th anniversary of it, and he wrote an article. I'm not even going to bother trying to paraphrase it, but he wrote an article basically saying a lot of the atrocities that came out of Tiananmen Square were myths, and they were used as a pretext to continue a Cold War. A lot of neocons were on board. A lot of Cold Warriors were on board. A lot of anti-Chinese people were on board to keep that to almost propagandize the massacre.
Mm-hmm.
I've never investigated it, so I have no idea how true it is.
Well, when I did my research today, I watched a TED talk by one of the protesters that survived out of there, and this is one person's account of it. And could he be lying? I don't know, maybe, but like he seemed pretty credible to me. And he was saying like he witnessed this shit happen, and he even recounted a story about how there was one soldier that got like kind of routed. He broke formation and in anger, this Chinese guy, he like punched him, and then that started like a bit of a little mini riot, and then basically the crowd killed him, and he feels guilty about it because as he was dying, apparently the soldier said, "I didn't do it, like I didn't shoot, whatever," like begging for his life and shit, and that like scarred him for life. And it was a pretty fucked up story, but I mean, he also recounted like the atrocities that he saw. He said he saw his peers being crushed by tanks, so could we have ratcheted up the rhetoric so that we can continue a Cold War with the Soviet Union and or Russia and or China, I should say? Yeah, maybe it's possible, but I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that China did some fucked up shit 30 years ago.
Well, yeah, of course. And I mean, it's China, and their human rights records have always been pretty poor. It's kind of funny when you think about it. You never really see any. When's the last time there was a big protest in China? You always hear about like individual artists or protesters in China who are getting arrested while protesting the government, but you never hear about a big protest. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know.
Unless maybe they're Uyghurs, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think part of that is because they also control all the media. They control the goddamn internet. Like it's hard to even organize, like
they have a damn social credit score that we've spoken about.
That is true.
They have a social credit. If you guys haven't heard our episode on it, we did this a while ago. So I'll refresh your memories if you haven't heard, but China has a social credit score where basically they give you a ranking based on your behavior, and not like your criminal records or things like that. Well, I'm sure that's included in it, but just like your social behavior and your reputation. It's like a reputation score.
Right.
And the thing that's really funny about it, what I find very humorous and the twisted irony is that you're able to pay to get your score as a way to
score back up, right?
Get your score back up. And what we came to the conclusion in our last podcast on this subject was that it's the exact same thing that the Catholic Church used to do.
Indulgences, bro.
And when they were selling indulgences to wealthy people who would commit sins and then just go back and be like, "Oh yeah, I just had an affair."
And honestly, the
five bastards and
the wealthy people that wasn't even the problem. With indulgences and with this Chinese credit score issue, it's not the wealthy people that were the problem. It was the poor people that are the problem because, in Europe and specifically in Germany, a lot of the poorest people were they're being told that they're going to go to hell and that their family's in hell and everyone's going to burn and die and their souls are going to be all fucked up for eternity if you don't pay me money. So it was like a fucking Ponzi scheme, It's like, pay me this money and then you're good. And they and it basically raped the population of their wealth and their money, and that's what started the Protestant Reformation, among many other reasons. But here in China, same idea applies, right? It tells you that there is no moral culpability to fucked up things that you can do if you're rich, right? And it also says if you're poor, you're going to stay poor because the likelihood is that if you do something wrong, you're going to have a bad credit score. You won't be able to apply for a loan for a car or get on a first class or any air flight, or like you can only take train travel but like only coach, and like it literally restricts a whole lot of parts of your life. So the only way to get out of it is to pay what little money you have to the government to get your credit score back up. And it's crazy. They even have like federally like paid snitches, basically, like people who go around communities and snitch on people. Like that is their job.
What do they do? It's just like North Korea style, where they'll, or even just Soviet Russia style, where you see someone not take out the trash or something, or throw like a banana peel in their recyclables and be like,
minus 10 points for Hu Yao Bang,
Hu Yao Bang. They go through Hu Yao Bang and they see who's less than reputable, and they put that on the list. Imagine if there was a score for like partners, like, you got you score. Your average score is a 4. They did it on the 10 scale.
Yeah, I got it.
And that just showed up on like profiles that you could search. Oh, I'm gonna search this guy's. It would be women would use that a lot more than men.
Isn't that no? Men would use it equally. Isn't that the
I wouldn't
premise?
No.
Isn't that like the premise for like Facebook, right? Like how Facebook started was like they stole all the pictures from like the university directory, and they were like, rate this woman, tell me which one's more attractive, the left or the right, That was like the whole point of Facebook when it started.
Yeah, I heard about that it was going to be like an "Are you good looking" type site, which is kind of shallow, right?
Oh, very much so. Yeah.
I mean, it is incredibly shallow, not kind of shallow.
Yeah.
But it's funny that was the original creation. Was that what those
the
Winklevoss twins wanted to make, or no? They started working with Zuckerberg after that.
Yeah, I think they wanted to invest or some shit like that. I forget.
But they wanted to actually make a platform, like a social media site. They weren't investing in that shit.
Right.
And then Zuckerberg just did it, but without them, like did it on his own.
The Zuckerbot sees good idea.
Zuckerbot thinks this idea is better without twins.
Must steal your privacy.
Must steal your privacy.
Give me your data.
That guy is a freak.
Moving along. So what else we got?
Moving along. All right. So another thing that I found interesting. So we got a good
little run out of that. Yeah.
Yeah. A nice little run out of that. Let's look at my handy dandy notes. In my notes, it's just a 1-page Google Doc that says topics, Ramadan. This is how prepared I am for this episode.
Check.
What's the difference between a lunar calendar ? A bullet point that's empty. There's a bullet point, empty bullet point.
That's pretty much how that part of the show turned out too.
Yeah, it showed up empty. All right, and then Yemen eating locust.
Yeah, this is
cool. Actually a pretty interesting topic. So that's just what my notes say. Yemen eating locust. But it's essentially pretty true to what my bullet says, Yemen eating locusts. So everyone knows the humanitarian crisis that's going on in Yemen. People are starving, and what's interesting is that there is a really bad locust swarm in the Arabian Peninsula right now. Some of you may have seen videos in Riyadh and different cities in Saudi Arabia of locust swarms just forming around, and it looks biblical. Like it looks like a biblical prophecy is about to undergo, and people are going to start caving into the depths of hell. Like that's what it looks like, with a combination of like sandstorms and stuff like that, or dust storms rather. But in Yemen right now, it's actually kind of a blessing in disguise in a lot of places, because so many people are starving. You can eat locusts, And apparently, I mean, according to the people who are being interviewed in some of these articles that I wrote, it tastes pretty good, which
Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
not really surprised. They
yeah,
look kind of like a tasty bug.
no, it looks fucking gross, but that's because I'm a Westerner and I haven't been, haven't been trained to like eating that. But evidently, the locusts are very good for you. I mean, a lot of them can have up to 20 grams of protein and just 6 grams of fat, and that's amazing. And also, they're considered a delicacy in a lot of African, Middle Eastern, and Asian countries. As a matter of fact, I was just like trying to find out like what's the caloric content of a locust, and I found this article just now that said like evidently Israelis are eating like locusts, and this is like a new kosher fad that's springing
Oh,
up.
really?
Yeah. So, and this is from March of 2013. So I don't know if this is still like a thing, but I mean, I guess I could see like if they, if they get swarms of locusts, right? We're talking about historical peoples, right? And there's barely anything to eat in the middle of the goddamn desert. Um, you know, obviously you're going to eat what you can get, and there's plenty of different ways that you can cook them. They can be fried or smoked or dried. You can make them with rice. There's like stir fry. I don't know, and they get the added benefit that they don't kill all the crops. And you were telling me this earlier. Like evidently Yemen's biggest industry is the what again?
Yemen's biggest industry is actually agriculture.
There you go.
Despite this, it's not a they don't produce enough food to feed their own population. So let alone export.
Right. So that's a little asterisk next to it, but it is their
Yeah,
biggest
it's
industry.
it's their biggest industry just because most of their population is in the rural country, and
Right.
that's what you do a lot of times when you're in the rural country. You farm, but Yemen does have. And this is when I say that they have the best land in the Arabian Peninsula to farm, it's not a really high bar because the Arabian Peninsula doesn't really have too many good agriculture sections, but just because most of it is desert, and the biggest problem is the water. Like it's just really hard to get water into certain places in the Arabian Peninsula. But Yemen does have some good land. It has something to do with like the water, that like then the water and the soil there. I'm no expert on soil or agriculture, but they do have good land. Despite this, they don't really have the infrastructure to have modern day uh, irrigation systems and things like that. So they're not really able to produce that much food. So this locust thing is, I mean,
I mean,
God
it's
bless
a
them.
blessing. Yeah, seriously.
God bless them. Like at least these people are getting food. Like
Yeah.
I just typed in locusts in my Google search bar, and I'm looking at images of like their plates. And honestly, I mean, it doesn't look that bad. Like it does. Here's my thing. We eat shrimp all the time. Like, do you like shrimp?
I do, and they're fucking gross looking, and I
Shrimp are
don't eat them
disgusting looking.
if I have to peel off all like the little legs and the head and shit, I just won't eat it. It needs to
Dude,
be like perfectly prepared, otherwise I'm not gonna eat it.
yeah, like I've gone to seafood places where they serve them like just like the day of catching them,
Right.
and they don't prepare them other than cook them. So you have the legs and the head, and they look like little aliens that you're eating that will go inside your stomach, lay eggs, and then
And like pop out of your
explode
stomach.
like
Yeah.
movie Alien,
Yeah.
um, like a straight up Ridley Scott movies type stuff. But we eat them anyway, and they're delicious. So if someone served me locust and they're like, "Hey, man, this locust is really good. Taste it. It's also healthy. It has a lot of protein and fats." Then it wouldn't gross me out enough where I wouldn't be able to eat the locust. So
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I don't look down.
you've got
Like,
a stronger. No, I don't look down on it at all, and either. And when you first told me this story, like I thought, oh, that's gross. And also, poor Yemenis, they're like, they're starving, so they're being forced to eat locust. Evidently, like this is a delicacy. Like they eat this. This is a normal thing that they eat. Is basically like imagine if like we were having a like a famine here in the United States, and suddenly fucking pizza and cheeseburgers start falling from the sky. You know what I mean? Like that's essentially what's going on there, and it's kind of a really nice story in over what seems to be like a shitty situation for the Yemenis. And one thing that I read also is that, you know, a small swarm of locusts can eat the same amount of food in a day as about 35,000 people, right? So they can just absolutely wreck your crops. So you know what? Eat them.
That's why.
Eat them all.
That's why locusts are like a biblical sign of doom, because
Right.
they eat your crops. They absolutely
Right.
devastate them. But yeah, it's definitely a good thing, and it's I feel like it's some good news to hear from that part of the world.
Yeah, definitely.
And a part of the world that we don't really get too much good news from. So I thought we'd at least share that story. And maybe you should try some locusts if you're grossed out by it. I'll eat it. I mean, I would love to have some if it was prepared properly. And you know, if you put some red bay on it, some pepper, some salt and pepper, red bay. I'm not really a hot sauce guy, but I'm sure you can. I'd eat some. I had gator, and dude, fucking gator is delicious, man. I never thought I would like gator so much, but gator is one of my favorite meats in the world, and I'd recommend it to anyone. That should be
Gator.
That should be a sponsor, like Gator.
Gator.
The show's brought to you by Gator. By Gator meat. Get your gator meat.
Come on down to the bayou and get you some gator meat.
Ooh, come on down to Bob's Gator Meat Store. I cut them fresh.
Fun fact about gators, they like eating marshmallows.
You don't say. How do they eat it with their
Just they
snouts?
eat it. Just snap down on it. Evidently, if you go like a gator, like, you know, go on one of those like boats with the giant fan behind it to go see the gators, you know, they bring along like a bunch of marshmallows and they like the marshmallows. I don't know why.
You know what they also like?
Humans.
Humans and little kids.
Yeah. Yeah, they do.
And dogs and cats.
And
And
basically anything they can chomp down on.
anything that they can devour.
Mm-hmm.
Mama said that gators are angry because they got all them teeth with no toothbrush.
Medulla oblongata.
It's the medulla oblongata. It's a great movie.
Yeah.
I watched that maybe a couple months ago, and I was thinking while watching it, I was like, this is definitely not going to withstand the test of time. I'm not going to find any of this funny. And believe it or not, I laughed just as hard as I did the first time I watched it. So Waterboy is where that quote is from. And
Yep.
Another recommendation. Today's show is brought to you by Gator Meat and Adam Sandler in The Waterboy.
Yeah.
All right.
Moving along.
Moving along. All right. What is the next thing I had down there? Okay, so this is going to be purely me speculating, but I saw some interesting stuff, and the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I was listening to a Scott Horton podcast, and he was talking about this. It was interesting. This article came out a day after I listened to this show, but Iraq sentences 2 more Frenchmen to die for ISIS membership. So what's going on right now is that the Iraqi army, which is basically a big Shiite militia, is just mowing down anyone associated with ISIS right now.
Can't say I blame them.
I don't blame them, but what Scott Horton was talking about was that a lot of these people may not be connected with ISIS. Like, they're just kind of indiscriminately, they're just, because they were so, you got to understand, these people were so terrorized.
Yeah.
They were so completely terrorized when ISIS came into Western Iraq. They fucking hate ISIS. Like, they hate ISIS, and they'll kill anyone who's associated with them. And it was this really interesting podcast that he was saying that some of these people may not even be connected with ISIS. They're just saying who this person there is ISIS, and we're gonna kill him and rape his wife. And you know how Scott Horton is. Scott Horton is a very theatric guy.
Yeah.
But
shout out Scott Horton.
Yeah, shout out to Scott Horton. But it was really interesting. And I guess my first thought is that I'm sure a lot of them are ISIS, and I'm sure there's people who are not ISIS who just fought, and I'm sure there's some people who are getting killed who probably don't deserve it. But this is what happens when this is one of my major talking points. This is what happens when you play identity politics. This is like, everyone talks about identity politics in America, like, oh, affirmative action. Oh, you always try to play the victim card because you're black or Spanish or, whatever. Everyone always brings those cases of identity politics, which I don't subscribe to at all. I think you're an individual and you should always be your individual person and not subscribe to a ethnic category or a religious category. But when you want to look at identity politics gone completely mad and insane and just very, very violent, which we don't have in the US yet, knock on wood. I don't think we're ever going to get to a violent level like that. But, we don't have gangs of, we don't have the Sharks and the Jets dance battling in the streets of the Bronx.
No,
but in the Middle East, they do have this really, really violent cycle of identity politics that plays out. And once you unleash it, it's like unstop. You can't unravel it. Like when Iraq was invaded and they removed Saddam Hussein and all those Sunnis were put out and they didn't have work. It just started this ticking time bomb went off, and this cycle of violence that's been almost 20 years now has just not stopped, of just revenge killing. Like someone kills a Sunni, Shia will come back and kill them. Vice versa. Like someone kills a Shiite, Sunni will come kill them. It's just insane.
Mm-hmm.
But these French guys who are ISIS, another interesting thing that you have to take is that how many foreign fighters were fucking from Europe? Like Jesus Christ! Like how many European citizens went over to, and some American citizens went too, but
for sure, too many.
I mean, a lot. I mean, the Europe people. I can't tell you how many people think this and have this talking point, but people say that the Belgium terrorist attack and the Paris attack, mm-hmm. they were done by Syrian refugees. That's an actual talking point that people use to not take refugees. Like, whoa, look what happened with the Syria when they took Syrian refugees. Those guys weren't Syrian. They were from Belgium. They were all
right
born in Europe, and they were actually from Moroccan descent. Their parents were Moroccan who moved
and even then it's kind of who cares? They were fucked up individuals who decided to do something terrible, right? So to play into your identity politics thing, I think we're demonizing whole swaths of folks, and it's really, it causes more issues than it does help us.
You can't collectively condemn a group. You can't. You can never. If you collectively condemn one group, all it does, it causes the other group to collectively condemn you, and it just causes so much just terror, man. Look at the New Zealand shooting, man. That guy had this big manifesto, and he obviously wanted to make a point. He live streamed him murdering innocent people in a mosque, and he wrote about all these things about white identity and saving Western civilization and all that crazy stuff that are talking points among that alt-right racist group. And all he did was just further continue a cycle of violence, because look what happened later. Sri Lanka and they even said that jihadist group even said one of the major inspirations for that attack was the mosque. Mm-hmm. So what are you going to have? This endless cycle of violence of killing civilians and religious holy places?
Yeah.
It's just not healthy. Obviously, it's not healthy.
Not
People are dying, but you're also causing way more harm to your own group. Like, the only thing that you've accomplished is that you made censorship a lot worse, because people are now cracking down on pretty much anyone who has even nuanced opinions, because because everyone just wants to demonize the alt-right. And this kind of cascades into a bigger problem as well, because when you like start censoring all these people on the alt-right who opinions that many of you, and I mean I sure don't agree with, when you start censoring them and kicking them off platforms, all you end up doing is just making them go into some echo chamber where they just talk about their white identity and all this stuff, and like how the whites have superior IQs and things like that, and how like non-whites have low IQs, and how Western civilization created everything. Western civilization created everything, right, Danny?
Yeah.
Western civilization created everything. Like, no, it's not really even Western civilization. It'll be like Europe created everything.
White Europe.
Western civilization.
Yeah.
There's different ways that you can define Western civilization when you think about it. There's European Western civilization that starts year of, at the Renaissance, 1600, or where you want to start it, when Europe starts to leap ahead of the rest of the world in technologically and militarily, when that takes place. But you can, the Europeans, they invented they set a lot of the backbone for a lot of the modern technology and a lot of the political systems that we use. Of course, that's true. But the learning centers and the scientific centers of the world, they always change. Like, when I think of Western civilization, I always think of like Sumer in Egypt, and
like the cradle of civilization.
The cradle of civilization that spurred and created like the basis of like all these ancient civilizations in Mesopotamia that eventually sprung to spread out to places like Greece and then Rome and then the rest of Europe. Like, that's, to me, that's Western civilization. I start from the beginning, because they were talking about these ideas of democracy and different political systems before the philosophical school of guys like John Locke existed.
Yeah. Thousands of years before, actually.
So another thing is that, like, these people, they omit the fact that when, let's just say, use an example, the ancient Egyptians were building pyramids, or when Baghdad was a huge learning center and things like that, Europeans were castle raiding, or before that, they were living in fucking caves. They were writing like me. They had my type of handwriting. So I don't understand where that white identity movement comes from. I think it just comes from people who are depressed and don't really have other things going on. So they're like looking for one thing to be proud of, and they latch on to like white identity. Like, their white identity is something that makes them of value, or something that makes them of worth. But it doesn't. Like, your race does not matter. Like, your race, it's okay. Be proud of your heritage. Like, that's great. Like, if you're, be proud, Spanish dude, or be a proud Italian guy, or be a proud, black dude. But like, your identity, your ethnic category, and your religious category is secondary to your own accomplishments and your personality. So
yeah,
that's all I have to say about that's what I think of whenever I see like executions in a highly sectarian environment, like in Iraq, which is like just the time bombs off. Like the violence, I don't think will ever. I mean, hopefully it does stop, but I don't know if it will anytime.
Probably not.
It just makes me think of like the dangers of subscribing to identity politics, both on the right and the left. I think they're equally damaging.
The white,
like the right ones and the left ones are equally damaging. Like, of course, I think the left-wing identity politics they're kind of accepted in the mainstream news. That's why people are more frustrated by it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's just be honest. You can go on Twitter and be like, "Fuck white people, fuck whitey," and you're not going to really pay a consequence of it, other than people are going to like.
I mean, you might get some weird looks, you know.
You'll get harassed by people who don't like that, but you're not going to get banned from the platform for being "fuck whitey."
Well, maybe we should stop saying "fuck whitey" in case people want to start banning people for that. So, what was it on Game of Thrones that you might like? It's like a saying. I'm going to butcher this. I think Tyrion said it. It's like when you cut off when you cut off a man's tongue, you're not, you know, you're signaling to people that not that you're strong, but that you're afraid of what that person will say. And I think to your earlier point about, you know, cutting people off platforms, even if they are saying fucked up things, it's like it emboldens them, you know. I think they believe that truly, you know.
Yeah, it emboldens them, but a lot of times you're just kind of erased. You're just kind of screwed when you're kicked off all of these platforms. Like when you're if you have a Twitter following of 300,000 people and you're a social figure and you have a big audience, and that's the primary way that you communicate with your audience, and that's the primary way that you branch out and gain your audience is through Twitter or Facebook or whatever social media platform that you're primarily using, especially if you're on YouTube. And that's taken away from you. Your livelihood has just been taken away. Like if you were like, we're on YouTube, but like YouTube, we're not really that much on YouTube. We kind of have YouTube as like an extra thing right now. Make sure that you subscribe.
By the way,
go onto our YouTube and subscribe.
It's sponsored by Gator.
Sponsored by
and Adam Sandler
Gator
movies.
Gator meat. Mom, what's for dinner?
Gator.
All
right.
Oh, Uncle Bobby. All right.
Enough on this.
Yeah,
I think we've made our point. I think
we made our point, but I wanted to just bring one more point up. So, and I want to talk about someone who was censored. Mance Rayder, not from Game of Thrones. He's a political commentator.
Right.
Pete Raymond, but he goes by
Mance.
By Mance Rayder, and his podcast is called Free Man Beyond the Wall, which is like an homage to Game of Thrones, an homage to Game of Thrones. And he's a big libertarian, and he was kicked off Twitter, and I'm not sure if he's been let back on. From what I've heard, it was a permanent suspension. That's ridiculous because this guy he's a libertarian commentator. I follow him on Twitter, and I've never seen anything that he has said that has been like bad. And this guy has just been kicked off Twitter. Apparently, the reason why he was kicked off was that he was in a debate on Twitter, which is always kind of like when you're debating someone on Twitter.
Twitter is for.
It is what it's for, but I try not to. I don't actually debate anyone on Twitter. I don't really respond to people who talk shit to me. Just if you're wondering, I don't really respond to people talking shit to me because I just can't. I can't think of like the perfect. I don't want to think of like the perfect response to someone talking shit. It's too time consuming. But yeah, he was at a debate and he said something about they were arguing about gun violence, and he's like, "What if I try to rob you?" Or someone said to him, like, "What if I try to rob you?" And he came back and said, "Well, I'd blow your head off," and he was removed for that.
Well, no strikes, no warnings, nothing.
I'm not sure what the situation was with Twitter, if he'd been suspended before or not. All I know is that it was just a very odd guy to get suspended because he doesn't have his content's not what you would normally think of. It's not pushing the line. You know what I mean? Like a lot of the people who've gotten kicked off Twitter, like Milo Yiannopoulos, he said some stuff. He says some stuff that's
Well, I mean, all right.
That opens a door for people being like, all right,
I'll bite. If he said that he was going to blow someone's head off, even if it wasn't jest, even if it was just in response to like a debate or like a heated argument, we're kind of in a situation now where people follow through with this shit. I'm not saying Mance Rayder would, right? But I'm saying that there's a lot of people who say violent things online and then do them. We're having a huge epidemic of shootings. And many times, almost every time, if you go and check their Twitter or their Facebook, their Instagram and shit like that, you'll see that they say or suggest very violent things on there. And so, like, as a private platform, which Twitter is, they have a choice. That choice is, do we just let this one slide because in context, they're just having a little debate? What if he actually did go out and blow his head off, right? And then people are going to point the finger at Twitter and be like, how could you let these hateful people have a voice on your platform, right? That's tough, man. That is a tough thing. While I agree that I think that speech should be free and open and able, I also think that, taking threats seriously is also pretty important, and it's hard to nigh impossible with all the people and all the content that goes through all these social media platforms to go through each one and try to pick out, all right, which ones are in context and which ones are out of context, So I don't know. That's tough, man.
Yeah. And I understand your point. Here's a thing where people who are on the right get frustrated, and a lot of libertarians, a lot of people who are conservative, they get frustrated that there's a double standard when it comes to when it comes to who is banned from these platforms. Like, if there was one consistent standard and everyone knew what would get them banned, then I don't think it would be an issue.
Twitter puts out a tweet. Here's the list of things you can't tweet, and then fucking Twitter, like, everybody would flame Twitter for it. It's like, how dare you censor us for any of these things? It's like, there's no winning path here.
So something that's really a podcast I would recommend would be Joe Rogan when he had Tim Pool on his show.
Mm-hmm.
You take the driver's seat. It's fucking.
No, I hear you, man. I just I don't know. I think it's troubling. I think it's a lot more complicated than people make it out to be. And also, frankly, I think that it would be really interesting if an independent party actually did research on this, where they could actually find out if there is a disproportionality between, say, political ideologies and who's more likely to get shut down. But something that's comprehensive too, right? Because, if they find that, yes, people on the right or libertarians or things like that are more likely to get shut down, I'd like to also see the data behind what is the context and the framework behind it, right? Could there also be a disproportionality of saying that people on the right or libertarians are just spew more violent shit, right? It's possible, right? So I think the jury's out on this one. I don't want to take a side on this. I think that, if there is any disproportionality, I'd like to know the context of that disproportionality. And if the findings of this data suggest that there is wrongdoing, then that should be corrected. Absolutely. And I don't believe that a platform like Twitter or YouTube or a Facebook, that tries to, make an open dialogue and almost like a service to people to be able to talk freely on there, should pick political sides, and pick on any particular side. But at the same time, I'll call a spade a spade when I see it. And if there is, data that suggests that they're just being fucked up and they deserve to be, deplatformed, then, well, what are you going to do? Like, kind of hard to argue against that.
What Twitter says is that, so Tim Pool was on Joe Rogan, and he was asking tough questions to Jack Dorsey and the head of, I think, legal or VP of head of some big people communication, something like that. And Twitter came off, to me, they came off. Most people would disagree with me completely when I say this. most people are really hating on Twitter off that interview. But Jack Dorsey, I thought, came off pretty well to me, and I was like, they're being reasonable right now. Tim Pool's doing a good job asking questions, and I enjoyed that. I appreciated the fact that he was willing to go on Joe Rogan and talk in front of millions of people, and then have somebody, a journalist, who's going to confront the journalist that's going to give him tough questions. Now, that being said, I think that there is absolutely overwhelming leftist bias on pretty much every news site and pretty much every mainstream news site and pretty much almost every social media platform. When I go on Twitter and I check this like trending stories, every single story that's trending or that will be for me will be something, or at least a news story. If it's not about like Jon Snow, it will be about gun control or something that will have a left-wing bias. It's hard. I think it's hard to argue that most media companies don't overwhelmingly look at things in a leftist perspective, and maybe not even just a leftist, just like kind of like this corporate safe liberal perspective. I don't even want to call it a leftist. It's a corporate safe liberal perspective. I'm going to coin that. Like where they know it's not going to like hurt any feelings type of thing. And it will sound like they're taking a political stance and it's a popular opinion. It's a stance, and millennials will get behind it. Yeah, I was on jury duty.
All right, go ahead.
Side story. I was on jury duty, and I don't even know if I'm allowed to talk about this, but I wasn't selected for jury duty, but I was being interviewed.
What'd you say? You were racist or something?
And they were asking people, one of the questions to people in the jury were like, so in this case, it involves gun violence. What do you think of guns? Like, do you have an opinion on guns that will skew your opinion? And everyone started grandstanding. Everyone on the jury duty too was like 25, like they're around my age. It was weird. And everyone started making these anti-gun arguments. They're like, well, I don't believe in the Second Amendment because I think guns are terrible and should be banned. Every single person was like that. I was like, dude, shut the fuck up. Like,
what got you kicked off of that?
What's that?
Why did they not select you?
There's hundreds of people they select for jury. It was just luck of the draw. I said, I was honest. I said, I just said that I'm a raging racist and I can't be. No, I'm joking. Don't take that out of context, please.
No, that's going to be the soundbite of the day.
Yeah. You have to make that a quick apology because that will be taken out of context.
Yeah.
So someone wanted to destroy you because, like, since we've been podcasting longer, like, there's been more people, obviously, overwhelmingly more people who have been awesome and, down to support us and listen and telling and sharing the word. But of course, you get people who don't jive with your content, which is fine. But if someone's ever going after you, those are the type of things that they'll take out of context. So like look at hours of your footage or hours of your content and they'll be like, oh, got him. And it will be something completely out of context and they'll throw it up. They'll make a compilation video of all the things that you said that were fucked up.
We should make a compilation of all the fucked up things we've said just to like get ahead of everyone.
Yeah.
Ha, bitch.
Ha, bitch. We haven't really said anything that bad though. Like there's nothing that we've said on this podcast that I'm scared that will affect my future. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's nothing that
Not yet.
You are? Not yet. Oh, I thought you said you are. There's nothing that we said that's too controversial. Maybe me more, no offense, but probably me more so than you. I've probably said some more things that are controversial.
Yeah.
But most of the things that I've said that are controversial aren't like, had nothing to do with like the contemporary left right dichotomy, like it's not mainstream. Most of the things that I've said have had to do with like foreign policy but they're not things that like you would listen to. And if you're not smart about the issue, you would, or at least have a strong opinion on the issue wouldn't necessarily fight against. Like the last episode I did without you about the Sky News thing, with Sky News reporting with Al Qaeda. That would be the type of thing that someone would be like, oh, look at this guy. What is he trying to say? He's trying to say that the media supports Al Qaeda. And I'll be like, yeah, that's the point I was trying to make. The media supports Al Qaeda.
See, that's another one of those things that a clip that could get taken out of context. So we got three things. We got fuck Whitey, we got I'm a raging racist, and the media supports Al Qaeda. They'll take those three things out of the podcast.
The thing is, though, is that like I'm not being racist. I'm not. That's the number one thing that will fuck you if you're being racist.
Yeah.
And like I'm not racist. I've never even had to say that I'm not racist because I just.
You don't need
like
to.
I'm not about even talking about like we rarely talk about like the culture wars. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the culture wars that go on that we probably should talk about because those are the big stories that get you lots of clicks and things like that. Like, oh, these liberal progressives are taking over college campuses. What will we do? Everyone just needs to get married and have a family. Like, we don't do that type of content, which, man, I really wish we did sometimes because it'd be so much easier to come up with content. I swear to God. Like if we just jumped on that culture war bandwagon and we just picked a side, whatever, it's like left or right side. Let's just say we both became just typical liberals. We both became typical liberals and we started doing like the anti-Trump racist stuff. And we just come up and do like, look what Trump did now. His racist supporters went to a pro-life rally and started booing at black people. Like we couldn't do that content.
It's funny that that's probably an actual article.
I mean, Covington,
Huffington Post. I think you're trying to say.
No, the Covington school, the Catholic school,
Covington
Catholic with the kids in the Trump hats.
Yeah,
they went to. They were at the pro-life rally, and there was a confrontation between one of the kids with the Trump hat and a Native American there who was at his own rally, and it was like no big deal whatsoever. And the media took it, and they like took it and they spinned it, and they started like all this bullshit. They made up a bullshit fake story about this kid. Being rude to this Native American, which was completely out of context. Like if you look at the entire footage, it ended up being a Native American guy. I think his name was Chief Joseph Phillips. I may be getting that wrong, but he's the one who confronted and instigated the event. And they said this 16-year-old Trump supporter did, and it was all over the news. It was on CNN. It was like S.E. Cupp, who was like I'm going to do air quotes, the token conservative on CNN, S.E. Cupp, had this huge segment on how big of an asshole this kid is. And they really try to ruin this young guy's life. And he didn't do anything. Like he really didn't do anything. It was a fake news. It was literally a fake news story that was just so over sensationalized. And
they really fucked that one up. Yeah.
They really fucked that one up. And when that full tape got out and everyone realized that MSNBC, surprise, surprise, and CNN and Huffington Post and Slate and Vox and Salon.
I mean, look, I'm gonna take a Trump position here and just say that they're good people on many sides of this issue here. I think that you're absolutely right with that particular story. They fucked that one up, but they do report on a lot of shit that isn't fake and that is fucked up. And I could say the same for Fox. Fox puts out a lot of bullshit, but they also put out a lot of shit that's actually real, And I think that the vitriol right now around these culture wars is that everyone's fucking bloodthirsty. So once they get some nugget of something that they can latch on to, right? And really sensationalize, that's a problem, right? So, to one of your earlier points, I don't think the media has a liberal bent, because the media is a corporation and they can make money off of all the sides. I don't see it as as black and white as you do. I think the corporatists in the world, the media moguls, they know how to make money, and they know, some of them are making money on the left side stuff, some of them are making money on the right side stuff. There's some shit going on all the sides.
What the famous quotes from one of my favorite quote from Robert Ailes is that he happened to find, he's the founder of Fox News. He happened to find a niche that was half the country.
Exactly.
Because there wasn't really, so before Fox News, the media always kind of leaned left, but it wasn't so transparent. And then when Fox News,
I don't know. I think you'd have to be really specific about it, because
Fox News,
it depends on the time, the time of, the zeitgeist of the country. I think the media reflects the zeitgeist of the country. If we're talking about like the media in the 50s, you wouldn't say that they were liberal. They're fairly conservative, right? It changes, it like this, the zeitgeist of the country is reflected in the media, and the media reflects the zeitgeist, right? And so right now we just happen to be in an era that feels to you like it is very liberal leaning and biased against conservatism or libertarianism or any of the folks towards the right, but honestly, like bigger picture shit, like it's a company that's trying to make money, and they're doing it the way that they think makes the most sense. And sometimes they do it with a left lean, sometimes they do it with a right lean. I don't think that they're biased particularly. They're actually very unbiased. They want to make money however they think they can make money. And if the flavor of the week happens to be liberal, it's liberal. And if it happens to be conservative, it's conservative. I don't see like I don't see media execs are like these social justice warriors that have to push their shit on you. No, I see them as,
I don't think that these media,
money makers.
I don't think that these media execs are social justice warriors at all. I think most people are not social justice warriors. I think if you look at the left, not a big percentage of them are social justice warriors. Most of them are just like anyone else, basically politically apathetic, which is fine. Like, it's fine if you don't really care that much about politics. But I think the corporate media, you're right. They're all about sensationalized stories, and they think that sensationalized, or maybe they have studies, or they probably have an idea.
They absolutely do focus groups and studies, and they test it out, and they do all of those things.
But what happened? But all right, if you look at any modern or any mainstream news outlet besides Fox
today,
and I'm even throwing in European ones like BBC and France 24 and CNN, MSNBC, like all the major news outlets, they have a pretty left leaning bent on how they cover stuff. And I think they do it because, obviously profits are the main thing that they're thinking about, but they can sensationalize stories about Donald Trump and scary old racist
because it's an easy target.
because it's a safe target too. Yeah. But on the flip side, you have this whole new type of media that has been created over the past 3-4 years. Really started when Trump was on his campaign. This whole new wave of media that it's like the new alt media that's like right below the corporate level media. So you have like all the like guys like there's so many new like right-wing stars. Like there's so many really new like right-wing stars in like the alt media who've like created these really big bases, like Ben Shapiro in the Daily Wire.
Mm-hmm.
But Ben Shapiro has the humongous audience, and he's Daily Wire. Like it's not as far as I know, maybe I'm wrong about this, but as far as I know, he's not being funded by any major corporation. Maybe he is. He has a pretty nice production studio, but like he just came out of nowhere. And then you have all these kind of like anti-social justice warrior personalities who are out there too, like Jordan Peterson and Dave Rubin and Sargon of Akkad. Like all these guys just got really, really famous because I mean, most of their shtick is that they kind of bash the mainstream media as being overly leftist.
Which is where I think you're getting a lot of this from.
But I get it from both. Like I don't. Come on, you know me that I.
No. And by you, I mean I'm probably overgeneralizing, but like this argument, I think comes from that, and
it does come from that. But
to this point, look, to this point, I think that people have a choice, right? We're not China. We're not forced to see a particular media or not. If there's truth to what you're saying and there's a liberal bent, then there is a reason why there is a liberal bent, because that's going to make money. And they see that as a larger audience. If I'm going to accept that there's a liberal bent, then I'm also going to make the case that maybe people are just more liberal, right? Maybe conservatism is waning, what do you have to say about that? That is a potential outcome of the truth that you are trying to get at. Like if people weren't that liberal, then this shit wouldn't sell, point blank. And they wouldn't be able to make money off of it. And I guarantee the second they didn't make money off it, they would flip. Right back to the conservatism. And what I think you're pointing out with this new alt media that sits right under this corporate media, and it's making a lot of money, right? And it's growing in popularity, right? They'll start sensationalizing, and I'd argue that they are sensationalizing. No,
they do. Hey, I'm not saying they don't sensationalize.
Yeah, exactly. So the point is that these media companies, right? Like just no matter if it's alt media or mainstream media, they're once there's like a significant amount of money involved, the way that they cover and the things that they say and the arguments that they'll levy against what they would consider their opposition are intrinsically tied to the audience and the ability to make money off of that audience. So if we are to posit that yes, indeed, the mainstream media, the biggest money makers of them all, have a liberal bent, then they're doing so because there are more liberals to sell to.
Well, here's something to throw a rock in there, though. So Fox News has better ratings than MSNBC and CNN. They're the number one. They have the best ratings out of all the news networks.
Well, the funny thing is about Fox is that a lot of liberals watch Fox too. Like a lot of liberals watch Fox, especially older liberals. Old people watch Fox. They grew up watching Fox. That was the channel. There's something to be said about that. Nevertheless, ratings as they are, they wouldn't be doing it if they couldn't make $1 off of it. They just wouldn't. And if we're saying that the majority of it has a liberal bent, then we're also saying that the majority of people are liberal because they're the people that are going to buy it.
Sorry, I was just muting. No, it's a fair point. I just think that I don't necessarily think that here. All right, let me rephrase this. The majority of people are politically apathetic. They don't really care. I think that most people don't really care that much. And when they vote based off just
what they see on TV.
What they see on TV, or maybe what their family is doing or what their friends are doing. They don't care. And again, I don't think there's anything wrong with being politically apathetic. Like, I honestly think that makes you better. I wish I didn't care about politics as much. I'd probably have a lot better skills in life if I didn't, because I wouldn't be thinking about politics. I'd be getting a real skill. You know what I mean?
I'd be having a real job.
I wish I knew how to like do carpentry instead of I was a master cook rather than talking about fucking what's going on in Saudi Arabia. But that sounds so much more rewarding, right?
Maybe
like just be able to make so I'm having a problem. I'm gonna try to make the perfect sauce just like Mama used to make it back in the old country. And then I started listening to bro history.
And now I'm into politics and I can't make the sauce anymore.
And now I'm into politics and I completely lost my mind. All these crazy people on the left and on the right, they're crazy over here.
I'm starving.
All I want to do is make a good pizza for about 10 guys and talk about the old country and who we got to whack tonight. But yeah, I lost my point. I lost the point I was trying to make in that accent. I just think there is definitely a bias in the media that's left wing, that's incredibly transparent, and I think that all these these right wing alt media sites have been created because a lot of people are frustrated with that, and they absolutely do sensationalize. If I see another AOC meme, I swear to God, I'm gonna jump out my window. If I see another AOC meme about socialism, like I get it. I don't agree with AOC's policies either. However, I don't need to see a fucking like you're not that smart and funny if you compare AOC to like a horse's head every single day, and that's like your thing. Like, oh, AOC looks like a horse, so socialism stupid. Like you're not, you're no Thomas Sowell right there. You're not throwing out.
I don't understand that either. I don't understand the horse memes. I actually find her kind of attractive, but maybe it's because I'm liberal. I'm a typical liberal. I'm attracted to AOC.
I'm not attracted to her, and I love Latinos. Latina. Oh yeah. All right. Did I say
see, that's the fifth. Yeah, that's the fifth. That's the fifth soundbite that they'll take from this episode.
Oh Jesus.
Well, right. Maybe you're just coming out of the closet. It is Gay Pride Month, so
I love myself some Latinos.
That's why you love me, right?
That's why I love Danny Abdel-Jabbar. All right. We've been going on for an hour and a half right now.
Yeah, so we can wrap this up. All the other stuff we can talk about in another go.
I don't know. Hopefully you guys like this episode. We kind of shot to shit today. I'm hoping you guys like this style, to be completely honest. And the reason is because it's fun doing these episodes. Like it's really fun to do episodes like this where we're kind of just shooting the shit and we don't have to do a super amount of research before an episode. Not saying that we're gonna stop doing those types of episodes as well. But honestly, I'm just trying to see what you guys like. See like what is interesting for you guys, because that's really
the best way to tell us like if you like it or not is just to give us a rating, right? Whether that be on your podcast app, iTunes, definitely, like let us know how you feel and what you think about it. If you're on YouTube and you're watching us now, like tell us we look goofy or tell us we're awesome, like whatever you got to do. But it really does help, and it gives us direction, and it really gives us drive, and it helps, validate what we do.
Yeah, ratings is the best way if you're on Apple. It really is appreciated. A lot of you guys have been rating it lately, and it's awesome. Thank you so much for everyone who takes the time to rate and review it. It does really mean a lot. But yeah, let us know what type of content you want to hear. If you like the chill stuff like now, if you like the more kind of history prepared stuff, let us know. Like we ultimately want to do both. But if there's like something that you don't like, basically, or like if like collectively, like if all of you guys hate a certain thing that we do, then like we're not gonna. We want to know that we can stop doing it. So another good way to talk to us is through messaging either one of us from on Twitter. Danny has a Twitter now.
I'm on Twitter.
Yeah, Danny's had a Twitter, but he started using it again. You could find him at what's your thing?
At Danny_Abdel. That's ABDEL.
All right. So at Danny Abdel, and mine's Henry Zamota, and then there's the official Bro History podcast Twitter as well. All those will be in the description in this show. But yeah, shoot me a message as well. We're trying to figure out ways.
Slide in those DMs.
Yeah, slide in the DMs. We're trying to figure out ways to like make the show more interactive with you guys. Because like I really do love hearing from you guys whenever you message me. Like don't be scared. Like don't like feel like you're bothering me, because I love hearing from you. On Facebook though, I don't check it as much, because so usually when I look at the Facebook messages, it's usually like a week late. I'm not trying to like not message you. I don't really check the Facebook that much, because it like fucks up my computer whenever I open it, because it's Facebook is so shitty. But yeah, either message me on either one, but Twitter would be the fastest way. And we let us know what you want. Any last words?
Nope, that was the longest exit ever.
I'm Edit Stalk. First of his name. No, it's not first of his name. All right, I'm going to end it now. I'm fucking this up. Peace.